Hari from Skill Quotient Academy. I'm a senior functional consultant and a trainer working with Skill Quotient Academy. We are Microsoft Dynamics online training provider. We do provide training on Microsoft Dynamics AX, NEV, CRM. Also, we do provide trainings on business intelligence applications and the mobile applications. These are all key focus areas where one of the key focus areas for us is the Microsoft Dynamics AX, where we cover the entire gamut of courses, starting from Microsoft Dynamics AX Finance to the technical, to the SEM, the production, the project accounting, the enterprise portal, the data upgrade tools, AIF, the integration frameworks, each and every aspect of service management, every aspect of the Microsoft Dynamics AX trainings are covered with us. The whole the reason behind we creating this video is to showcase our capabilities in the Microsoft Dynamics finance training courses. What all we do in finance courses? What all the coverage aspects of finance? We're going to look into that. Okay. In the finance, as per the Microsoft official curriculum, we're going to touch upon all the areas of finance. We touch upon in Microsoft Dynamics Finance 1, Microsoft Dynamics Finance 2, and the fixed assets. These are the three areas which we cover in our course, and the duration of this course is going to be 30 hours, where after 7 to 8 hours we talk about the configurations, and then the rest of the 20 to 24 hours is for the various aspects, like the different aspects in the financials we want to talk about. So that's what that's what we're going to touch upon at the high level. Let's dive into the application and see what all in detail what are we going to do in our training. This is the Microsoft Dynamics AX screen, where we have the different modules like General Ledger, Account Payable, Account Receivable, the budgeting, the fixed assets, and the cash and bank management. For the Microsoft Dynamics AX Finance training, we're going to cover all these modules: AP, AR, GL, budgeting, fixed assets, and cash and bank management modules. We start with a fresh implementation, and we're going to do all the configurations required for the company. That's we start with the setups and the configurations, where we talk about the currencies. How do we set up the currencies? How do we set up the exchange rates? How do we set up the system to import the current exchange rate from the exchange rate providers? We want to talk about all these aspects at the first class, at the first session, and then we are going to move to the dimensions, the financial dimensions. We want to set up the financial dimensions for our organization, and then we are going to go to the account structures. We're going to configure the account structures for our company, and then we go to the advanced rule structures. We're going to have after configuring the account structure, if required, we go to the advanced rule structures, and we're going to set up our ledger. Then we're going to also create the fiscal calendars before we set up our ledger. And under the ledger, all the global configurations that we have done till now, we're going to attach it to our company. We're going to do that. Along with that, we also see how we import the currency exchange rates in our initial classes. So the next level of configurations is the vendor master and the customer master, where we're going to look upon how we create a vendor, how the vendor groups are created, how we integrate the sub-ledger, how we integrate the sub-ledger to the general ledger, to the vendor posting profile. Similarly, in the account receivable module, we're going to touch upon the customer groups, the creation of the customers, and then integrating the customer posting profiles with the help of the customer posting profiles. How do we integrate the account receivable to the general ledger? We want to touch upon all those things, and then we go to the bank, cash and bank management, where we are going to create the checks. We're going to create the banks. We're going to create the configure the different payment methods in the system after creation of the bank accounts, and then we once the configurations are done, we're going to do the journals, journals where we set up different kinds of journals, right? Where we go to the general ledger and we set up the different kinds of journal that's required for our organization, maybe for the invoice recording, maybe for the payment. We set up different kinds of journals here in our journals. Okay, so once all these configurations are made, we are going to do the configurations as how a customer would ask you for him to do the configurations. We're going to touch upon the real-time aspect, and we're going to brief on those things. So once we're done with those, we want to go to the transactions where we'll be looking into how we make a journals, how we create a journal, or how do we what allocation methods we can use using the journals, how a periodic journal can be set up. We're going to look into how a template can be set up. All those things we're going to look in our journals. So at the same time, in the transactions, we're going to go to the AP, and we're going to see the AP invoice journals. That's the recording of our vendor invoices. If there is an invoice without a purchase order, how do we do that? How do we record it? We're going to see it in our invoice journals. Along with that, we want to see the payments as well, where how do we make the payments to the vendor invoices? All these aspects we're going to look into. We're also going to set up the payment terms, different kinds of the payment terms. We will be setting up the terms of payment, the cash discount, the payment schedules, the payment days, fees, methods of payments, the online, electronic fund transfers. We want to see the different methods of payment. We'll also see during the payment how the invoice matching can be done, what are matching policies can be set up. All these aspects we're going to look into. We'll also look into how the charge code setup, how do we set up the charge codes, and how this could be added to our invoices. Right. So we'll also look into the post-dated checks, where how do we set up the post-dated checks and give the post-dated checks. So after this, we're going to go to the account receivable module, where we're going to see how a free text invoice is created. That's for any invoice without a sales order. We're going to use these free text invoices. We want to see that as well. So along with that, we also look into the payments, payment journals, and how do we make how do we receive the customer payments, how do we reverse the payments, how do we we're going to go to the aging period, aging definitions, and we're going to see how we can do the open transactions editing and how we do the closed transactions editing. We're going to look upon from both the AR and AP aspects as well. Right. So here in the invoice journals, we're going to look into the transaction editings, whether that's a closed transactions or open transactions. We're going to see that, and we do the editing of these open transactions as well as the closed transactions. We'll also look into the setup of the collection letters, how we set up the collection letters, the interest rates, and the interest rates, and the collection agents and the aging period definitions. How do we do all of these things? We're also going to look into that. We also have the print management setup, where we can define our whole sales orders and the purchase orders, how exactly the print management should be. We want to look into that in our planning. Right. So the next topic that we're going to touch upon is the tax aspects. We're going to set up the complete taxes. Under the general ledger, we're going to set up the tax codes, the tax groups, and we're going to have the complete tax transaction. Different kinds of the tax we're going to set up in our system. Okay. So once we do that, next thing that we are going to do is we're going to do the budgeting, where we set up the budget models, the budget codes, the budget allocation terms, the transfer rules, budget cycles, or monthly or quarterly or yearly cycles. And we also set up the control configurations where we define if a budget register is exceeded in a transaction, what we're going to do with that. We're going to look how exactly we should deal with the budget exceeding all those things. We're going to look into that. We're also going to look into the planning configurations. How do we plan, whether it's a top-down budgeting or bottom-up budgeting, how exactly our budget value should come up in the system. We're going to look into that right in our budgeting. So the next thing that we're going to look into is our fixed assets, where we do a complete life cycle of a fixed asset, right from the creation of the fixed asset to the disposal. And we're going to do the fixed asset groups, the fixed different depreciation proposals. We can set up the different depreciation books for the IT purposes, the different book for the company purpose. We can set up different books and the profiles, different depreciation profiles we're going to set up, and then the value models. What's the net book value? We will be setting up the value models for the different depreciation books. And then we have the major groups for the fixed assets and the fixed asset groups. So do groups, and then we acquire the fixed assets either through the fixed asset journals, or we convert the existing fixed assets, existing inventory to the fixed assets, or acquire the fixed assets through purchase, or different methods of acquisition we're going to look into. And we also look into how do we set up the budget for the fixed assets, and how do we lend a fixed asset, how do we transfer the fixed asset. We want to touch upon all these aspects. How do we do the lending, how do we do the budgeting, how do we do the transfers of fixed assets from one group to other, how do we dispose of fixed assets partially. These are the aspects that we're going to look into in our fixed asset planning. Along with after this, we're going to move to different individual aspects like the foreign currency revaluation. If for the foreign currency forex losses and the gains, we're going to we'll see how the AX can handle the foreign currency revaluation. We're also going to see the cash flow forecasting, how we set up the cash flow forecasting, currency conversion, here in the currency conversion and the currency requirement. We set up the cash flow forecast, and how do we generate the cash flow forecast for our in our system. We want to see that. We're also going to see the fiscal year close. How do we do the fiscal year close? That's if closing sheets are required, how do we use that? We're going to see that. Right. So we also going to see the topics like intercompany consolidation and elimination. How do we have to do the consolidation? What kind of if the shared chart of accounts are there, how do we deal with it? If the chart of accounts are different, how do we deal with? How do we do the elimination if there is intercompany transactions, the purchase orders and sales orders? How do we do eliminations for those kind of transactions? We're also going to look into that. And how do we set up a consolidation company and consolidate between the companies? we're going to look into that, elimination journals and the allocations. How do we set up those things? So uh, finally, we go to the reporter, the management reporter, where we uh, before this we also do the bank reconciliation. In our cash and bank management, we're going to see the aspects like how do we do the bank reconciliation, how do we do it, how do we how the check reversal journals can be posted, deposit slip payment cancellations can be posted, even how bank guarantee can be processed. All these things we are going to look into. And apart from this, finally we're going to look into the management reporter, where we set up the management reporter it's a FRX reporter where we use this reporter to build our own financial statement. This could be a normal financial statement or the ratios, or it's a quite flexible reporter where we can compare it with the previous years, the results of the current year with the previous years, or create the ratios, or however we want to generate the report. We can generate the reports using the management reporters and the financial statements. Okay, so this is all we're going to do in our training. So please do visit us at www.skillquotient.net. We're going to give you a lot more information. Please contact us at the information given here. You can write us a mail to info@skillquotient.net, and we'll be happy to help you.